Welcome to Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast. I'm Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis. And Nick, we have a special episode today. Joining Liberty Blue is the best beat reporter covering the New York Rangers. And I don't say that because she's here. I say that because I truly mean it. It is Mollie Walker of the New York Post. Welcome, Mollie. Also, first of all, happy birthday.
Oh my God, thank you so much. That was such a lovely introduction. I'll take it, that's for sure. And I'll be rubbing it in Colin and Vince's faces when I see them too.
Well, I want to leave this off before we get to Rangers here because this
Yeah.
has been the discourse on social media since the trade deadline here. I say this very tongue-in-cheek for those that are just listening instead of watching. The eye roll that I'm about to do. Vegas, huh? Such cheaters. They are the LTIR cheaters of the universe.
Yeah, I mean, what are we gonna say? What is there to say? It's the rules. This is the way that the NHL is designed. Take it up with Gary Bettman. I don't know. I don't know what else there is to say, but I mean, for me, I'm a little biased because it's entertaining. I imagine that the Vegas writers are having a field day with it, and as I would too if it was happening in New York. So it's content. It's fun, and it's the NHL. No matter how weird or bizarre it is.
I feel like people should be more upset at their favorite team for not doing the same thing than
Yeah.
they should be at Vegas. Like, Vegas is just following the rules. Your team should just do it too. Like, I don't know why you're mad at Vegas.
Same thing with Tampa and Kucherov.
Right.
Like, it's everybody's allowed to do it. It's just a matter of actually doing it. I mean, I would be curious to see ask around upstairs in front offices just their take on it, I guess, if they feel it like it's almost, morally, wrong to do it, frowned upon. I don't know, however you want to phrase it. But I mean, if it's within guidelines, it's within guidelines. What are you going to do?
So I wanted to start with the people that did not get to the Rangers, guys like Jake Gensel, Frank Vatrano, potentially Pavel Buchnevich, who knows with all the rumors out there. What have you heard and learned from the deadline as to where these guys got with Drury? Were they even remotely close? What were those conversations like?
I feel like, especially with Frank Vatrano, I think that there was genuine appeal there, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Rangers do know that he can work alongside Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, which was obviously a hole that needed to be filled and was at the top of Drury's wish list for this trade deadline. So I definitely think that there was something to that, but my understanding is that not only was Anaheim asking for a lot, but apparently Frank likes it in SoCal, which how could you blame him? And there wasn't really any sense of urgency to move him, or he's comfortable and content with where he is and what's going on there. So I just don't think that came to fruition because of the price tag that was coming over there from the Ducks, and I feel like that was kind of a theme of the whole trade deadline. I mean, even Barry Trotz went on the radio and he's like, I haven't been in this role for a long time, but prices are ridiculous. So I feel like that was definitely true, and I think that Drury showed a lot of restraint, not going all in on some of those guys, and yet still being able to address the needs that he needed to address, if that makes sense. I don't think that giving Brendan Othman or Gabe Perreault to anybody would have been the right move to make, honestly. I really don't. I just think that those two, you still have to protect the farm. You still have to protect the future. And those two guys in particular are understandably untouchables. And anything that, any other general manager brought to Drury, he was not balking at that.
What is your understanding now? You've been here a couple years on the beat, got a reasonable feel for the Rangers as an organization, how they like to operate. What's your understanding of how this process kind of plays out for them now? Because you've been here a few years.
Well, I mean, I think that anybody that knows the Rangers or, follows the Rangers as a fan, media, whatever it may be, Chris Drury is very, close to the vest. His inner circle is him. Is how it's been phrased to me before. So I think that that's just the way that he likes to do business. That's the way that he likes to move. I feel like every general manager has their own quirks, has their own way of handling business, and that's just Drury's. That's just the way that he is, and it's how MSG, I feel like, in general operates. So I think that's just probably the most that I could say about that.
The Rangers have been looking for a top line right winger all season. They've tried VC, they've tried Blake Wheeler, they've tried me, they've tried Nick, they've tried you, Molly. They've tried everybody. Ultimately, I wouldn't say they got a top of the line first line right winger, right? The rumors with Buchnevich or Gensel
Right.
or whoever else it was, they didn't get that kind of player, but they got a few. They got a few really good complementary players that are ultimately going to make this team better. Do you think the Rangers did the best they could under the circumstance? Was there something that they left on the table that maybe they should have went after? Because you don't get too many opportunities when you're a Stanley Cup team that's as good as this to go all in and to really push the chips in. You don't. This doesn't happen every year. Do you think they made the right decision with the moves that they made?
I have a lot of thoughts on this just from all the different points that you hit on there. I guess the first one that I want to go to is, you talk about leaving big names on the table or not, making those big moves. But you look at last season, they got Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane. Didn't work out. They were still lost in the first round, and that was a situation of, it just felt like there were too many cooks in the kitchen, too many options, too many of similar kinds of players almost. It wasn't so much about complementing what's already in place, which obviously is still the goal, but you do get a little bit blinded by Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane being available in general, but that didn't work out. So I don't think that necessarily means that the Rangers didn't, get better at the deadline because they didn't get Jake Gensel or Frank Vatrano or Buchnevich or any of the top right wing options that were available. I look at Roslovic as a pretty complimentary addition. And I don't think that the Rangers, I don't think that anybody who's followed this team closely is looking at that addition as so important that it's like the one thing that's going to unlock Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider. That's up to Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider. That is more important than how they were going to fill that, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. I just think that means more, that carries more weight. That's something that's on them, not so much on Drury. I do think that Roslovic was a good pickup. I mean, that first game against the Blues, it's really difficult to evaluate because the Blues were really bad that night. Yeah. Let's just call it what it was. St. Louis did not have a good night. Happens to everybody. Just difficult to evaluate that game as good as it was because of not having so much fight on the other end of the ice. But I did like what I saw in that first game from Roslovic on the first line. I think he brings speed. I think he's a pretty, North kind of guy. And I feel like you look at how well Frank Vatrano worked, that was speed and shoot first mentality. So it's just a different variation. And I think that it could work. And over time, it developed chemistry and all that jazz. I think that Roslovic was a good pickup, and I don't think that fans should be so wrapped up in not getting on who they didn't get, because that's not what's going to unlock that first line. What's going to unlock that first line is number 93 and number 20. So that's what I have to say about that.
You're making us feel very smart because that's been our take for a few weeks now. That it's ultimately going to come down to 20.
Reads our tweets. Like this is confirmed listener of the show. We talk about this a lot.
It's logical thinking, guys.
There is not really a ton of logical thinking that goes on. We are one Stanley Cup since America entered World War II.
That'll do that to you. That'll do it to the fans. You can't blame them. They're antsy. I don't blame anybody. But if you step back, think about it a little bit logically, that is what's more important. 20 and 93 are much more important than whoever is on that right wing spot. And like you said, it could be me. Like they have so many people there over the years. But they're, they also, I feel like because Mika and Chris have played so many minutes together and over so many years, it must be difficult to come in and start trying to play off of that kind of chemistry. And I mean, something that I always find so fascinating with them is the way that they pass to each other off the boards, because that is something that's developed over just years and years and so many minutes, so many games of being together. And that I feel like is just a microcosm of what a challenge it must be to come in and just try to add to that in any way, play off of it, contribute to it. It's difficult no matter what.
As far as the rest of the regular season going towards the playoffs, what are you most curious to find out about this specific iteration of the Rangers?
It's a good question. I think that this group, you could say, is battle tested now. They've they've been around the block a little bit. This core has, they went all the way to the conference final. Disappointing first round exit when they had arguably the most loaded lineup that they've had in years. Um, and it was interesting how they came into both of the seasons after those playoff finishes. And I think that this time around, it, I mean, you could say every year feels different, but their mindset is different. The way that they talk about things. And I also think that Laviolette has had a big impact on that and a big impact on the mindset, the camaraderie, the culture, the whole thing. I really do think that Laviolette has his fingerprints all over this team and the way that they've gone this season and the way that they're playing. But I'm curious to see how they have learned from the past and how they go into this playoff run differently than they have before, knowing what they know, going through what they've gone through. How are they going to apply it moving forward? And I just feel like that's a beautiful thing about sports in general. But I do feel like, I think back on the days when all we used to talk about was how young they were and how inexperienced they were and no playoff experience. You can't say that anymore. So they have, they've been battle tested. They've been through it. They've had some scars, and it's going to be interesting and telling to see how they move going forward.
You mentioned 93 and 20, and I talk about this every show, and I really wish I wouldn't. It's really annoying. I just wish you would score so I can stop talking about this. Mika Zibanejad has gone 30 games. 30 games without a 5-on-5 goal.
Before Christmas, let's just say it.
Yes, 30 games. When you're a first-line center with that kind of responsibility, and I know because we had Sam Rosen on the show, and he kind of talked about, the defensive responsibilities and that, like, I get all that. But if you're the first-line center and you go 30 games without a 5-on-5 goal, that's a problem. No matter who it is, no matter what the name on the back of your jersey is, that's not good. So regardless of who the Rangers got or whoever they got as their, the third guy on that line, as you said, it's up to Kreider and Zibanejad to do it, to get themselves going. What are they going to do to get themselves going? Like this, I'm sure Zibanejad knows. I'm sure it's not like, I'm sure he's well aware that he's not producing at 5-on-5. So, okay, well, he's aware, but now what? What's the next step?
I think that, and I've talked to Mika through these stretches that since I've been around, and it's something he's dealt with his whole career. I think that, moseying on over to 20 for a second, same thing. He was also very streaky for a majority of his career. I feel like it's, since the 52 goal season, he's just been a consistent goal scorer. Like that's just who he's kind of become, which has been incredible to watch. But Mika has had these scoring droughts throughout his entire career, these streaky stretches. So it's not something that he hasn't worked through before in the past. And I imagine that having gone through it as much as he has in his career, he has his little ways, his mentality things like that he's going through the motions right now and trying to break through on that. And I do think that, to Sam Rosen's point, that he does pride himself on being a 200-foot guy. And if you are like sitting up in the press box, and if you do decide to just watch Mika Zibanejad from start to finish, he is an integral part of this team on what they do on a daily basis. He still has a presence out there. It's just not translating to the stat sheet, which is an issue when you're the number one center. And that is a fact that is not lost on Mika Zibanejad. I am sure of it. And I just feel like it's something that, you're going through the motions. And when you're getting closer to the playoffs, I can imagine that you have just a jolt of energy that goes through you. And I can imagine that he's just, working until he breaks out of it. And that's all you can do. These things happen. They do. And whether fans want to go up in arms, it's unacceptable, blah, blah. Sure, that could be true. But it also could be true that a player has been historically streaky his whole career, and he's just got to work through it until he's back.
And that's the argument here, the elevator pitch for why you should be excited. They've gotten this far. They have the 4th or 5th best record in the entire league. And he said got 1 5-on-5 goal in 2.5 months. That's a real good indicator that the potential for something is here. In your opinion, how far away do you feel that they are from, I don't want to say they're optimized, but their best version of themselves?
I mean, this is the core.
Yeah.
This has been the core. And the core has proven that it can go all the way to the conference final and go up 2-0 on the Tampa Bay Lightning, So I think that I've thought, and I've said this so many times, the foundation is there. And if we're talking about this season in particular, since I've been covering the league closely, I've never seen a season this wide open as it has been. It just feels like it is anybody's ball game. It really does. There are the favorites or whatever, but I do feel like, because even watching this Rangers team on a night-to-night basis, are they the 4th best team in the league? Their stats say that they are. Their record says that they are, but are they? So it's kind of like, it does feel like it's wide open, and everybody's got their faults, everybody's got their thing, but you get hot at the right time. You find chemistry at the right time. And with goaltending, the way that the Rangers have it, quite literally anything is possible. So I don't know how much answering the question of how far away how much I'm answering that, but I feel like the foundation is in place. It's just a matter of putting all the puzzle pieces together and creating a product and a playoff product that is going to carry them through all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So I they're right there. I think their chance is as good as any. Honestly, I really do, because it does feel like that's where the season has gone. But this group has also showed that they can do it and they can turn it on. And when they turn it on, they're a really, really tough group to beat. They're tough to play against in that regard.
You mentioned Kreider and Zibanejad's their chemistry. They've been playing together for a long time. Another couple of people that have played together for seemingly 100 years now is Trouba and Miller. Now Trouba is out for a couple of weeks now, but that pair has not changed this is the 3rd coach now. Mm-hmm. They have had some moderate success, but there's been also a lot of struggles when they were under David Quinn. There were struggles under Gallant, and there have been struggles under Peter Laviolette now with those two as a pair. I understand comfortability. I understand all of that. But there is now tangible success with other pairings, with other combinations of players on the blue line, except for 79 and 8 as a pairing. When is, or maybe Laviolette, I'm sure Laviolette's aware of this as well, but is there more of, hey, we want to keep 79 and 8 together because they've been together for forever and they're comfortable, but at a certain point, if it's not working, is there a willingness to change it when Trouba comes back?
I do think that, and just thinking back to when Laviolette first came in, he right off the bat said he wasn't married to the way things were beforehand. He said he had no issue with shaking up the lines, shaking up deep pairs, regardless of, continuity, how many years they've been together and whatnot. He was very forthcoming about, not being married to anything. That being said, this is, I guess, I don't know if you could call it speculation, but this is just kind of how I've seen the whole situation. I do feel like that Laviolette has taken into consideration how much movement this lineup went through in the last 2 years. Yeah. And I also think that the players, because I remember toward the end of Gallant's tenure, the players just started talking about how difficult it was with how much the lineup was changing and how every day they were with somebody else. They were starting to become much more forthcoming about how much of an obstacle that was. So I do think that has been in the back of Laviolette's mind this season. I think that their success and that just how well they've done this season, they've been the top of Metro since October 24th. I'm pretty sure it is off the top of my head, has deterred Laviolette from changing things. And, a lot of his lineup decisions have been because of injuries. But I do think that continuity. I feel like I'm lagging. Am I?
A little bit,
yeah.
Okay.
Refresh the tab from
Maybe
there you go.
Oh, there
we're good.
Mollie's back.
Am I back? Am I good?
Yes, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I think I lost you there for a second. So I just feel like continuity has been valued by Laviolette in that regard. But I really liked what I saw from Schneider and Miller the other night. I will say that looked really good. That looked really promising. The way Schneider has just, stepped up in those sorts of situations has been really enjoyable to watch from such a young guy. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen when Trouba comes back, if this Miller-Schneider pairing continues to again. They looked really good against a really bad Blues team. So it's the Devils, the Hurricanes. These are all coming up that are definitely going to happen before Trouba comes back. So there's definitely a possibility that the defensive pairs look a little bit different if Laviolette likes enough of what he's seen from Miller and Schneider. But I do think that he's had to value continuity to take into consideration what this group was going through the last 2 years, which is, that's such a fair way to approach it, especially when you're trying to, appease the players and, come in and start a good culture and stuff like that. Taking that stuff into consideration, I feel like must go a long way.
You mentioned the idea that they're battle hardened. When we talked to Sam earlier in the season, he mentioned the idea that this group really likes each other, that they're really committed to each other. How much do you feel that's kind of been part of the missing component of the last couple of seasons, that you need that level of saying emotional connection to your teammates might be a little bit weird, but like you see how much the group loves Rempe. He's only been here a month, but they all treat him like their son.
Fans are chanting for him, Nick. It's not even a team thing. The garden erupts every time he's on the ice.
No, it's so great. No, I definitely think it's important. And I think that it's something that they've developed over the last few years. I feel like Drury has also taken that into consideration when he's been a lot of pre-existing connection.
Mollie, you're lagging again. Maybe refresh the tab.
Like the whole family you inserted in and who, from what I've heard around the league and in researching him before he actually came in, like this is what he does. Like he brings teams together. Like he's really good at creating a culture like that. I mean, they finish every practice with a hug at center ice. He likes to call it a huddle, but it's a hug. So it's those sorts of things have an effect throughout the whole lineup, throughout the whole roster, into the locker room. So I really do think that Laviolette was a really good addition to this group.
We gotta touch on Rempe Mania because this guy, he's 21. He's, I think, at least 11 feet tall on ice skates. This guy, he fought the first few times, in his first few games, but just watching him play, he's looked like an effective bottom six player. It's not just because he tall or he fight. Like this guy can actually play the game of hockey, which is like one of the things that we that I mentioned before the deadline was, in recent deadlines, the Rangers maybe have had a thought about, oh, the Rangers need more sandpaper or grit or whatever or any of these things. But because of Rempe's emergence from thin air, essentially, like the Rangers didn't have to go and get a sandpaper guy. They didn't have to go get one of those intangible. They didn't have to trade a 5th-round pick to get John Scott. Like they have that. But also Matt Rempe can actually play hockey. Like it's fun to watch him when he's out on the ice and as he's trying to get puck retrievals or fight along the boards. And you see how everybody on the other team is terrified of going anywhere near this man. Like this is good for the team, and not only because people like him and he's big and he fights, but also he's actually a positive addition on the ice. Molly, I believe you are frozen.
Yeah, sorry. I heard okay, wait, are we back? I heard most of it. I heard most of it. Rempe has just been such a I just remember when he first came in and he just was like an anomaly. Like he's 6'8.5" and he skated like he was 6'8.5". Like I remember watching him for the first time, rookie camps and all that stuff, prospect camps. And he looked so far away from cracking an NHL roster when he first came in. And the way that Larry described him, which I really liked, is like he was like a hulking like ball of clay that the Rangers just got and that they could mold and see what he could become, because you can't teach height. You can't teach strength. And the guy's already got that. So, and I know he told me that Tanner Glass has always been in his corner, has always been a big advocate for him in the organization. So I found that to be really interesting, but he's been putting in a lot of work. The Rangers have been putting a lot of work into him. And this season in Hartford, suddenly I'm hearing all about Matt Rempe. Like suddenly I'm hearing he had a great game. Oh, he fought this guy. He fought this guy. A game-winning goal in this one. And I was just like, since when? Like it came out of nowhere. But once you start, making waves in the AHL, you get the parent club to pay attention. So I think that Laviolette all season has been bringing one to evaluate, but brought up why not? And he's played a lot of sheltered bit at that, but I feel like it's different. And Larry also said this to me, the Rangers must love the chaos of it too, because it's generating a lot for them, whatever it may be. Like guys are on the ice looking for him. The fans are fiending for him. Like it's just, there's so much going on and it's working. Like it's having a positive effect. It's great. It really is. It's a great story. It's great for the Rangers. It's great for Rempe. Such a good kid. He's enjoying every minute of it. Like it's honestly endearing how much he's loving it. And it's fun. I'm very curious to see how things progress going into the playoffs, because I do think that Laviolette plays him very sheltered minutes. And when you get to the playoffs, you want to be able to roll all four lines. But Laviolette is also a guy like Gerard Gallant was. It's just the way the Rangers are built. They ride their top guys a lot. Those are the guys that, play Artemi Panarin 30 minutes a night if you could. That's just the way coaches are going to want to handle this Rangers team. So I'm just very curious to see how it unfolds going forward. Every day they're working with Rempe extra on the ice, even though he's not an extra. He's putting in extra work because they know that he needs to be refined a little bit more if he's going to be their fourth line wing in the playoffs. So I'm just curious to see how it'll go, but it has just been such an unbelievable story, such fun to cover, just endless content, and he's been just chef's kiss and everything. The guy loves to talk, is fun, and it's great.
You took the question I was about to ask of, is it realistic for him to be in the lineup in the playoffs if he's only going to play, 6-7 minutes a game? So pivoting away a little bit from that, going forward, there's about a month left in the regular season. We're trying to iron out the kinks, figure out who plays with who. Is there anything lineup wise, deployment wise, that you feel maybe there's something there that they haven't experimented with yet that might be worth considering?
Sorry, you completely cut out.
No worries. It was, internet's internet. That's no one's fault.
These things happen. It's technology, right?
The question was, as far as the lineup and configurations, permutations, is there anything they haven't tried yet this season that you yourself are personally curious about that you would like to see?
That's a good question. I think that depending on how Roslovic pans out, I mean, the one thing that I've always thought, even before the new guys came in, I thought Jimmy Vesey should have gotten a little bit more of a look on that top line, just because, I mean, you want to talk about another great story. I mean, Jimmy Vesey totally fits that bill as well, but Jimmy Vesey has the genetic makeup and skill set to complement that top line. He definitely does. And I think that he probably could have gotten a little bit more of a run in that spot. But I understand, wanting to reward Kakko and wanting to try to jumpstart him a little bit, especially going to the deadline when, maybe they could have waited to see if Capo was able to secure that spot. Obviously didn't happen, but I do think that VC is a good option for that top right wing. But something tells me that Roslovic will stick. I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't. But that's definitely one that I feel. But otherwise, I feel like we've seen most of the combinations that anybody could be thinking of, honestly.
Last one for us here. We'll let you go, Mollie. Again, we really appreciate all your time today. Especially we got to be at the Garden here in a little bit here. So thank you for the time.
No worries.
Last question here from us. You've watched every single second of this team. You've talked to everybody within the organization. You're in the trenches every day. You're in the trenches. In your personal opinion, do the Rangers have what it takes to win the Stanley Cup this season? I know. There's so many. There's so many different
question.
This is the penultimate question. Am I right? Like, there's obviously there's so many variables and things like that. But at their core, with the people they have in place. Okay. Let me know when you're back, and I'll reach out the question here. You're back. Back? Yeah, maybe.
Possibly.
Well, are you
possibly?
Do they have?
Yeah. Do they have what it takes to go all the way? Yeah.
Do they have what it
in the concise manner? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I do think that they do. I really do. I really do. When you have goaltending, the way that the Rangers have goaltending, when you have a second line like the Rangers do, the way that they've been operating all season long, when you have Artemi Panarin setting a career high in goals with Alexis Lafreniere on his other wing, yeah, they have what it takes. They 100% have what it takes. And I think that I mean, sometimes when they play physical, which is how they're going to have to play in the playoffs, no doubt, it's just a matter of getting up for it every single night. But sometimes, I mean, I'm more so thinking about the last time they played the Devils. I mean, that team could win the Stanley Cup. Like they have the foundation in place. They have the intangibles. They have the skill set. They have the talent. Why wouldn't they be able to? And especially in a league this season where it does feel like it's been pretty wide open. I just think that it's anybody's Stanley Cup this year. That's my hot take, I guess you could say. It really does feel like it's so wide open, and why wouldn't the Rangers be able to? If anything, I feel like they're probably one of the top favorites, people say. I really do think that they have what it takes. I do, and that's not just because I cover them. Honestly, I would say if they didn't, but I do. I think that their track record, everything that they've shown, shows that they can.
Mollie, you're the best. Really, really appreciate your time. Technology issues. Listen,
Sorry for all the tech difficulties, everybody.
You're not in control. Listen, like, it'd be one thing if you were in control. It'd be like, oh, what's happening? Mollie wants to get out. Like, what's going on? No, but we really appreciate your time today, Mollie. You're fantastic. Mollie Walker, the New York Post. I mean, your coverage is all. And again, I would say this: if you're here, whether you're not here, like I say because I mean it. You do fantastic work covering this team. Really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for coming on. I think we lost her again.
Yeah, one more for the road.
Yeah. I believe. Oh, Mollie, baby, you're back, baby.
No. Yeah.
No.
One more for the road.
Yeah, that was it. You're good.
That
now.
was it. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. You're the best. You're the absolute best. Tech issues. What are you gonna do? But thank you so much for coming on, Mollie. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys. I'll see you.